The funny thing is, yesterday, 2 days ago, what day was it? Christmas Eve, wasn't it? Yes, it was the night. We were playing the song, or analysing the song by Slade, and also by which is an okay Christmas song, but the one that I like the sound of, because I grew up with it in Scotland, right? But I couldn't stand when I saw years later the making of the song, Live Aid, Band Aid, Heal the World or Feed the World, right? And then I saw the documentary on it. That's, by the way, before I get into this, the thing that's kind of profound as usual is that Quantum of Conscience, who either does videos at the exact same time or after or before or during, sometimes I'll do a video and then he'll release one on the same topic. It's kind of profound, that keeps on happening. But he did a video on this just yesterday, right? And I realise it's Christmas time, of course it would be yesterday if you do it, but why that song? But it's good. He did a very in-depth review of it and basically ripping the shit out of it. So I would say go and watch that. This is going to be a quick video. But the thing I wanted to say about it was, years ago when I first watched the making of that video, that's when I first started to realise what a horrible creature Bono was, right? And if you watch the old documentary on it, it's on the making of that song, you'll see Bono skiting about, totally proud, just proud as punch on having that line. And when I saw that, when I sung that, that line, and he's just making such a big deal out about it, like he's so special, like this absolute fucking megalomaniac, right? And of course, you've seen other things when the whole band has got themselves into trouble, hitting on some 14-year-old girls with the pool and stuff like that, and then apologising later on, just ridiculous shit. Basically showing their true colours and being ashamed by the fact that the people can see them for who they are. And then, of course, later on, it was Bob Geldof and another guy that wrote that song. Now, I didn't jump on the bandwagon at the side when it became around about 2000, I think it was, or 2002, years after the whole PC thing had started off in the 90s, probably even started in the late 80s, really. But the whole political correctness thing had really gone, I call it the age of stupid or the age of idiocy, which started around the 90s. And we saw this particularly in a country like New Zealand and Sweden and Canada and the UK. And then, of course, it did kind of grab hold in the liberal side of America, So this age of stupid thing, it led on to this let's start shaming old things, right? Let's start going back through movies and making them look bad. Let's go back through these songs. So that became that line, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. Now, it's a terribly written song, abysmally written song by Bob Geldof and whoever the hell that other guy was, a name I can't remember. But that wasn't actually that bad a lyric, if you think about it, because you would be taking, oh, thank God it's them instead of me, It's what they're saying is, people, we're putting it out of our minds so much, and this is what's going on in other places. Even though, at the time, just after that song came out, I moved to New Zealand. A few years later, I moved to South Africa with my dad only. And of course, I'm living in Africa and looking around places around like Swaziland, South Africa, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. And my family lived in back that end of the world before I was born as well. So a lot of our photo albums say Rhodesia instead of Zimbabwe. But anyway, I look at how people lived back then, how my auntie and uncles out there in Zimbabwe and South Africa, how they lived, right? And I thought, oh my God, we live like peasants in the UK. And then I'd see a lot of people in the UK who just, in South Africa, a lot of English and Scots who would be ultra racist. Like a lot of South Africans were racist, right? But they'd be ultra racist. And like, you ask where they're from, Scunthorpe or whatever it is, and it's like, you come from a fucking shithole. And now you act like you're some, like, oh, look, I've arrived. You know what I mean? Just ridiculous. So anyway, getting back to that Bono tune there he is, jumps on the bandwagon, even though he is on record as boasting about it, like it's his baby, And you see him on one of the, if you look, okay, I'll try to put a link to all these things, okay? I'll upload the video and I'll add them later. So if you see the video, just check back later on to the links. I won't have links there straight away. We're going to go for a walk. But anyway, If you look on the video with Freddie Mercury of that song, the live version that they did during Live Aid, which was a fantastic concert. My gran was dying around that time. I remember her favorite artist was Freddie Mercury, and I was on the hospital. Anyway, just another story. So he hands over the mic and they start doing that song, right? And it's just watching all these guys there, like, oh, we're all part of this, you know, the old, what's it called, self-righteous crew you'll get in every country and every, you know, there's unsung heroes, the famous stars. So they come on the stage and there they are singing their verses and blah, blah, blah. And it goes over to Bono and he's like he's chomping at the bit to sing that line. And not only does he sing it, he goes, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. And then he goes, woo, at the end. You know, so there was a phase in the 2000s, especially from the reality shows, where not just mostly black women, but also women try to sound that kind of, that diva way. They'd be like, hey. I used to take the piss out of them, like, hey. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like what they call it, jazz scat. And when they go just all these noises, you know, they call it jazz scat. And which is weird because scat, and I'm a scat man. Scat means to shit on someone's face. So let's not go there. Definitely not. But anyway, so getting back to the Christmas thing, he was so proud of himself. You know, the absolute megalomaniac narcissist that he is. So to come around years later and to make those even worse lyrics that they did, it was like, I can't even sing it now. 1 second. Oh no, I can't pause this thing. Can you pause this? No, it would just go stop, wouldn't it? It doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to point out those things there. His new lyrics, go check them out. They're atrocious. They came out in 2004, I think it was, or 2014. They rehashed the song again. Again, just champagne socialist. Sorry, another thing I wanted to mention about that, the Bob Geldof thing. So, you know, he wrote that song in a rush. And if you look at the words, they're actually quite dark and horrible. They are very presumptuous and extremely racist about Africa, if you really look at it. One is it says, well, I guess it's snowing. There won't be snow in Africa this Christmas time. Bullshit. I know of at least 3 or maybe even 4 countries in North Africa that actually have snow at that time of year. And Tanzania, Libya, maybe, was it Eritrea? The places that have the mountains, especially in Tanzania, has obviously got the, you've got Kilimanjaro, is it around there? Kenya, is it between Kilimanjaro's between there, isn't it? I'm pretty sure Kenya and Tanzania. Anyway, but yeah, they get snow, I can assure you. Not just at their winter time. I'm talking like they're high enough to get snow any time of the year. So there's that bullshit, that arrogance or ignorance, sorry. And then there's the pretending that the whole country is destitute. So back then, for example, Libyans were living much better than British people. You know, Gaddafi wasn't that bad a guy. Our system said he was. Our system said that his people bombed a place over Scotland. That most likely was bullshit. That was most likely a false flag event by our side. Whether the British intelligence service or probably even Americans, given the fact it was mostly Americans on that flight. But yeah, I think by the fact that I think it was Alex Salmond's government in Scotland forgave the Libyans for that, and actually they it was like reconciliation or something that they did years ago, and they got slated for it. I think the reason that was because they found out through the intelligence services that thing was all bullshit. Because why would you just forgive them? It's only 1988 that happened. And there was never any solid, these details were too sketchy. Like 9/11, the details were sketchy, but instead of all the assailants being killed off, they were, you know, still alive apparently. So the same reason why they had to miraculously get rid of Osama bin Laden's body and give excuse after excuse as to why they couldn't show him dead, and then they dumped his body out at sea, and it's just pathetically weak narratives, you know. So getting back to Bono, right? So watch these links I'm going to place, but the lyrics, he obviously, I think it was actually Bono that rewrote the lyrics. It could have been that arsehole, but you look at the lyrics between that song and the other one that is, tell me why I don't like Sundays, and it was about the shooting of, I think it was an American shooting actually. A woman went nuts and shot everyone depressed on a Monday, right? So there's his two claims to fame. Shortly before he advised everyone around the time of Band Aid, he told everyone to give away their money. And well, that's fine for him, given the fact that he's got royalties constantly coming in. So months after he gave away all his, oh, look at me, I'm a champagne socialist, blah, blah, whatever his fucking head like. I can't remember his accent, but anyway, London, isn't it? Yeah. But he gave away all his money, and of course, is a millionaire before you know it. And all these people who followed him like a bunch of lemmings over a cliff, which is another fallacy that doesn't actually happen. But anyway, let's just pretend it does. What they ended up doing is just ruining themselves for this champagne socialist prick. Which is, I always say, watch out. I'm a lefty myself, but watch out for lefties that are what's the word, self-righteous as fuck, and who are always trying to tell you how to live. Yeah, a good friend of mine today. Well, when I say good friend, a guy I've known all my life, because he grew up with me in the north of Scotland. And we only, I hadn't seen him since I was like 8 years old. Got in touch with him about a year ago. Yeah, we get on really, really well. He's centre right, I'm centre left. And we were talking about these... we were talking about racism and all that sort of stuff, how the left, how the insane left, sorry, because he was saying that these lefties, okay, not like you, and I was like, you don't have to explain, I understand, they embarrass us too, right? But how the world's gone kind of insane, we're getting into this, and we're getting into these identity politics and all this sort of crap. You know, how TV shows, for example, constantly show things that are to emasculate white men and Southeast Asian men. I've spoken about this in other episodes before. Because those are the two demographics, white males and Northeast Asian males are the two biggest demographic in the world historically for having rebelled against power, right? Following that, you'd probably see Middle Eastern, yeah, I'm trying to think, then it would probably move on to some smaller places, like some Pacific place, but you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, so there's these things they put on TV when every advert you look at in Britain does not reflect the population. So it's basically minority rule, but it's not put in by minorities. This rule, these situations, he's an art professional, right? And he says he was having an argument with a lefty liberal friend of his, right? And she was basically saying that it was okay, it was a good thing that white men are held back because, you know, your great-grandfather, he says, my great-grandfather's a fucking farmer, so was my dad, so I grew up on a farm. So we didn't get, you know, we were an oppressed people in Scotland anyway. And to somehow say this white privilege and they had all these chances, it's just so arrogant, and it's actually extremely sexist as well. And it's also extremely racist, even though she's white herself, who cares? She's being a racist. And it's not benefiting black people or any other color by doing that. So he's an artist. He can't even get into these exhibitions because he's got a dick and he's got white skin. Definition of sexism and racism right there. Just ridiculous. So, but yeah, I've had the same kind of arguments with people who are the insane side of the left, you know. And we were talking about, he touched on one of the same points I frequently talk about, which is these are people who are the same as people who are ultra homophobic are often gay, closet gay. They'll never, some of them might go to their grave, but they do certain things you notice people do. Like the majorly homophobic people I've noticed, they haven't all been gay, of course. Some of them have just been brought up in a certain way, but some of them have been, like, bro, you're playing rugby and stuff, they're real touchy. What the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck off me, you know what I mean? Grabbing near your nuts and shit, which can happen often in rugby in a scrum. I understand that, but I mean, just you know when you can tell someone's trying, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So yeah, he's definitely true about that. But these bleeding heart liberals, so many of them are closet racists. And you use that line, like, you know, because having a mixed race family and growing up during apartheid as I did, and having a black fiance who I was with for 7 or 8 years and black girlfriends. This wasn't me trying to prove a point. It's just that's the person I happen to meet. I didn't make a point out of their race. They just were who they were, same as my friends, right? But whenever you say it like that, it's like, oh, that's what all the races say. Look, I've got black friends. Well, okay, well, where the fuck are yours then? If it's racist to have black friends, just and it's racist, is it racist? Are you not a racist if you don't have any? If you're not, because show me the logic behind that one. But they can never show you anything. These people, they'll like a Facebook group and think they've got some moral high ground above you. So I'm glad he was noticing the same things as me there, and that these are just agendas to cleanse the world. So I was just telling a story about what my ex-fiance, who's black, said about when we were watching the TV. It was I brought up a point about the fact that it was all hardly any white people and hardly any white men, but she was bringing up the fact because we were obviously a mixed race couple, and she said that how come it's like fair enough the mixed race couple thing, whatever. She said, but how come it's hardly ever a white guy and a black woman like we are? How come it's always the other way around? And I thought, fuck, didn't even clock that one yet. And then we start looking through. Fuck, you're right. It's even in all the magazines, papers. We were living in London at the time, and it was everywhere, all around us. I thought, that's part of the. So it's not just this cultural Marxism sort of thing to try misportray the diversity in the UK by having almost every advert you have on TV a black guy and blah blah blah. And it just gets a little bit annoying because it's not about seeing a black face. It's about the fact that you can see something that's contrived and fake. And the fact that people who think they are morally superior to you can't see that it's intentional and that it's social engineering. It's psychological. It's a psyop, So the one thing we were saying is it looks like if you were to look, as my friend put it actually, if the aliens were to come down here and there was no trace of us, we all got wiped out, but they could just see our media, they would have sworn they just wiped out a country that had 60 million people in the UK, for example, that it had it was about 50 million black and Arabic people, based upon the adverts. That's what they would go on. So the point I wanted to bring up about all this kind of divisive stuff, and I'll do a lot more on this actually. I should do something on it specifically, but it's something that I'd noticed many years ago in New Zealand, where I think, well, who brings up these things to favour Maori over there? It's not Maori who invented it. Who brings up these things in the UK to bring in the border? We were talking about Brexit. And he said he was actually pro-Brexit, but only because of the immigration side of it, right? And well, that was the reason why a lot of people, but that was engineered problem. That was a problem that didn't need to occur. England had control of the UK borders, right, through its own country. You can't come into the UK through anywhere else anymore. You can't come in through the east coast of Scotland where the ferries used to come in. That's all been closed down because they want to control, ensure that Scotland can't thrive. It's always been the way, suppress Scotland so they can buy things on the cheap, so they can basically buy all the distilleries out. Anything that makes money in Scotland so we can bought out on the cheap. That's always been the economic structure, the fiscal structure of the UK. So their failure to police their borders was their own fault. It had nothing to do with the EU. They could have placed their own border security on the French side because it's international. When it goes through customs, that's international land, right? They just chose not to. So the whole thing's intentional. And the whole reason for Brexit was to actually allow the tax havens to continue the money laundering because it's the biggest single earner. People don't understand this. The biggest earner of all things in England and the UK actually is not even oil. It is the earning of money that is through money laundering. That's what the banks do. This is why HSBC over in Hong Kong got caught out. This is why all the other banks, not Citibank, Barclays and everyone else has been caught out so many times doing this sort of stuff. And what happens? They get a fine. Oh, they've been given £100 million. £100 million, says some dumb quizzling serf who doesn't understand anything about money. And it sounds like a lot. That's more than the Queen. The Queen has like £1 million. And that's... These people are that fucking stupid, right? They don't realize that these banks out of that same crime have made billions upon billions. And this just represents a 5% token gesture to keep the serfs and clowns happy. So when these things happen, let's say the non-policing of the borders, that is to make you racist. That is to make you someone who's going to attack. They didn't choose to come over and give themselves, allot themselves more money than what a British person could get on a benefit. I've been there trying to get a benefit in the UK and I've been unemployed. It's impossible. And I nutted off and I said, it's because I haven't got a turban, isn't it? I got pissed off. But I understood. They didn't come over and create our rules for us. We created it ourselves. Why? Because the world is predominantly, it's controlled by evil, an evil cartel. And that cartel is predominantly led by old white bastards. And the biggest threat to those old white bastards, and then followed by maybe old Asian male bastards, and women as well, though, they'd be in there too. The biggest threat to that power structure is white men, and then Northeast Asian men. Historically, fact, right? So of course they're going to get rid of us. Of course they're going to say, all Asian men have got tiny little penises, blah, blah, blah. Emasculation of them, right? Look, every white woman wants a black man, or she's chasing a black man. Yeah. And then the joke is, to get her handbag back, Anything to create division. And again, if you're actually a person who's not a racist, like most liberals aren't, because they are fucking racist, aren't non-racist, you would actually notice it for what it is. It's the creation of dichotomy. It's the creation of strife, the creation of friction, drama that doesn't need to exist. And it's just divide and conquer tactics. Anyone with half a brain can see it. That's where the problem comes in. Extreme stupidity, we were talking about cognitive dissonance and how it's something that actually was mentioned more by the right than the left, but the left have started to take it on board. Just how fake news, the word propaganda already exists, you didn't need to make a new one, but they did anyway, and then Trump hijacked it off Hillary Clinton, and now they get pissed off when he uses it, but like, hang on, you came up with that stupid term in the first place, and of course he's going to use it, of course he's going to hijack it. Yes, young man, do you want to say something? Yeah, so I won't talk about this forever. I'll get off the video soon. But basically, oh come on, just stop it. Right. What was I saying again? Bollocks, it's gone. This happens to me all the time. Oh yeah. So just they're stealing all these terms from each other, but they're all just part of this political puppetry which is used to separate us, just like the algorithms on the social media sites are used to separate us into a division, right? Sex division, men hate women. Race division, they hate them, or I say that you hate someone, and I tell you what you think, even though you know what you think. As my friend said, I know inside that I'm not a racist, and I remember having these kind of arguments. As he said, I'm kind of center right, you're center left. We've said the same things to people. I know inside who I am. I don't need you to fucking tell me what I am, Mr. I think I'm so morally superior because I'm on all these Facebook groups that I've liked, yet no one, even in my widest circles, except for a guy at work that I sometimes talk to and then take a photograph with, like he's a zoo animal, I think you get my point. So this is what we actually have from these oh hello, this is what we have from these kind of people, is they're projecting what they are. So what they're really doing is showing they're getting in early, like a narcissist does. And I'm not saying that everyone who's a lefty liberal is a narcissist, although there's different levels of narcissism. There's different types of narcissism as well. And I would definitely say that they subscribe to one type, which I can't quite remember the exact name of. I think there's four types of narcissists, four main types of narcissists. Anyway, that type that has to be, look at me, everyone, look, everyone. Well, the commonality that all narcissists have is that they always get in early and accuse you of being what they are, so that when you accuse them of being what they actually are, you look like you're being a child. Oh, you're just saying that because I said that about you. And you just said that because you knew that I'd say that about you because it's a fact. So that is what the whole racism thing comes down to. That is what the whole sexism thing comes down to. I mean, look at the situation my friend was talking about he cannot get his stuff. He's a sculptor and an artist, right? He cannot get his work out to exhibitions because he's white and he has a penis. You know? She agrees. She's like, yeah, that's good. It's a good thing. Heck, God, you're my friend. You would have me starve. Like, oh, your grandparents got a lot. You know where I come from. It's like a fucking farm. You know, where's this thing, this privilege? They've been programmed. They don't question it. They don't question. That's another thing. They don't question themselves. And maybe just before Obama got in, I would say that the same is probably true during Bush's reign of a lot of Republicans back then. They had this kind of mindset where, and that's what the ones who I used to clash with the most. I've always clashed with other lefties because I've always found them the most infuriating. But during that period of time, the Bush reign, I do remember having a lot of arguments with people who they just drank the bias soup. You know what I mean? The Kool-Aid. Like nothing he could do was wrong. Same as now what you get with the Trumpsters. It's mostly from the Q crowd that think he's infallible. Everything he does is perfect. You know, I will say that he's definitely better than the left. Look, he wants more. He's out-lefted the left, as Jimmy Dore said. He wants Americans to have $2,000. Nancy Pelosi wants them to have 600. You know, that's out-lefting the left. If he just freed Julian Assange, that would be a great, you know, from prosecution. Then the British wouldn't keep on, the English wouldn't keep on messing with him. And then also pardon Snowden, he would have majorly out-lefted the left, right? But right now there's still enough of a false dialogue and false narrative to give to say that he is a racist and XYZ, even though many of the not most, but many of the intelligent black people who I know are pro-Trump, and one guy in Brooklyn was saying how he's met him years ago, and another guy was actually sending a lot of these videos around, and he was showing me how basically how you can time it. As soon as the campaign started, that is when the claims of racism started. It's a real hard one to pull off, especially when comparing. If you want to compare, you know, apparently the better of two evils. Well, the better of two evils is when it comes to the racism thing, Trump also. Because you could look back in the Hillary side and on the Biden side, and there is clear links to Grand Dragons and all sorts of people in the KKK. So, you know, again, you start sharing some of this information. You share stuff like this on the news. You're a conspiracy theorist for sharing stuff that was on public television. Even as back to the time when Biden himself was a Republican. You can take stuff from TV where he got caught out on global TV. And it's like, you know, he had to answer in court. I did a stupid thing and blah, blah, blah. You're sharing that. It's public knowledge from before he was a fucking Democrat. And apparently this is all propaganda for... what kind of brain do you have to kind of start just joining the dots in a way that is just fucking backwards logic retarded? Anyway, that's what's happening. I'll leave it there. I know I started out talking about the Christmas video, but had to do that. Check it out. Have the link there soon. Cheers. Bye.